House Dagoth, or the Sixth House, was a great house during the first era of Morrowind's history. The house was led by Voryn Dagoth, later known as Dagoth Ur. All records of the house's existence were destroyed following the Battle of Red Mountain, and its members were either killed or absorbed into the remaining houses. At that time, Dagoth Ur was presumed to have died until his reawakening at the end of the Second Era. The Tribunal, Vivek, Almalexia, and Sothasil used Kagranak's tools to become living gods. They laid claim to all of modern-day Morrowind and kept the Dunmer people relatively happy for millennia. The heart of Lorkhan, which was the source of tribunal power, remained in Red Mountain. They would return to it annually to refresh their energy. In 2E 882, Dagoth Ur and his ash vampires awakened and emerged from Lower Red Mountain into the Heart Chamber. Dagoth Ur starts the first stages of construction of the second Numidium in a chamber near the heart of Lorkhan. He hoped to create a new god called Akulakan, for whom his house would serve as the priesthood. The first blow was struck that same year when the tribunal came to Red Mountain for the annual ritual to tap into the heart and renew their powers. Dagoth Ur and his minions ambushed them and drove them from the Heart Chamber. This would prove to be a pivotal event in the history of Morrowind, as the forces of the temple would never again control the region around Red Mountain, nor would the tribunal ever regain their full powers. With the initiative in his hands, Dagoth Ur set about expanding the number and influence of his house. He spread the Blight, which were terrible ash storms that spawned at the center of Red Mountain, that carried with them the dreaded Corpus disease which twisted its victims into monsters. These creatures would go on to promote the interests of the house throughout Vardenfell, notably by influencing the dreams of some susceptible Dunmer. While House Dagoth was ideologically expansionist, it was also very slow and methodical in its movements. In more than 400 years of conflict with the Tribunal, House Dagoth hardly expanded from Red Mountain. Dagoth Ur thinks on a large time scale, for the most part, in the outside-of-time scale of the divine consciousness. He believed in his fated to rule Morrowind, to free Morrowind of the Empire, and to become the new hard-loving father of Morrowind. In 3E 417, the Tribunal's loss of Sunder and Keening resulted in their diminishing powers. Dagoth Ur believed he had permanently gained a decisive strategic advantage. On a mortal timescale, the battle may last for centuries, but the outcome is not in doubt. The Akulakan may be the device for dramatically reducing the timescale for a decisive victory. These were Dagoth Ur's long-term motivations and objectives. 1. Establish a theocracy in Morrowind based on the worship of the newborn god Akulakan, or the Second Numidium, to be created by Dagoth Ur from the heart of Lorkhan, and a body constructed according to the principles and rituals pioneered by the Dwemer Kagranak. 2. Establish the ancient heirs of House Dagoth as the god-priests of Akulakan, and the Sixth House of Dagoth as the dominant political power in Morrowind. 3. Through charismatic conversion, unite the Dunmer under the guidance of Dagoth Ur to battle against the foreign animals who hold Morrowind in subjection. 4. Expose the false worship of the Tribunal and destroy the ecclesiastical authority and political power of the Temple. 5. Extirpate all remaining individuals of inferior and mongrel races from Morrowind. 6. Drive the Empire from Morrowind. 7. Recover ancient territories stolen by Skyrim and Argonia. 8. Extend the worship of Akulakan to all nations of Tamriel through subversion and conquest. Dagoth Ur had a long-term plan. He possessed godlike powers. He had significantly weakened the Tribunal. He had infinite patience and a willing army of creatures working for him. But ultimately, he did not have a plan for the Nerevarine prophecy. That resulted in Dagoth Ur's downfall. When playing The Elder Scrolls III, Morrowind, I sometimes ponder if the writers and designers at Bethesda thought about offering the player an opportunity to join the Sixth House, side with Dagoth Ur, and keep him alive. I do wonder about that choice. Would Dagoth Ur be able to achieve his long-term objectives if the Nerevarine chose his side? However, even if the Nerevarine did support Dagoth Ur, the Red Year still would have happened, which could have resulted in the disappearance of the heart of Lorkhan. Dagoth Ur would have lost his powers, become mortal, and would never achieve his long-term ambitions. Ultimately, there was no such option in the game because the Nerevarine was sent by Uriel Septim VII to destroy the heart of Lochran and weaken Morrowind. And the Nerevarine prophecy had to come true at some point. When playing the Elder Scrolls Morrowind, you meet the man himself, Dagoth Ur, who welcomes you.
Come, Nerevar, friend or traitor, come. Come and look upon the heart and Akula-Khan.
When you ask him his plans for the Dunmer people, he says the following.
I will free the Dunmer from the imperial yoke and cast down the false gods of the temple. I will lead them out of their ancient superstitions and give them intimate knowledge of the divine. Then perhaps when Morrowind is once again restored to its ancient glories, it will be time to consider whether the Dunmer should cultivate ambitions of empire.
Whether Dagoth Ur's long-term plans materialized or not, the Dunmer people were cursed either way. Ultimately, you cannot cheat destiny, and Dagoth Ur's story is a prime example of that.